What's up guys, it's Austin. Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Exorcism of Roland Doe, and this happened from a Ouija board, which is terrifying because I've played it before, it's worked for me before. This wasn't just one exorcism, and I'm going to get to that in this story in a second, so here we go. Roland's ordeal in St. Louis became the most intense and documented phase of his possession. The exorcisms took place over 6 weeks and involved more than 30 sessions. So this kid got over 30 sessions done, and this kid was only 14 years old, and he was possessed by many demons, apparently, by this Ouija board. Each night was a battle unlike anything the priests have ever seen before. Father William, the lead exorcist, was a seasoned priest known for his unwavering faith and discipline, but even he admitted that the case tested his limits. He's almost seen it all, and even this one was challenging everything that he's done. The exorcisms followed the ancient Roman ritual, a rite dating back centuries. So this is like an ancient ritual. This is something that is very special in order to get this off of Roland. It involved prayers, holy water, and commands for the demon to leave. But each session was a test of endurance. Roland, strapped to his bed or a chair, would convulse violently the moment the ritual began. So basically, the demon that was inside of him, or demons, were just restless. They did not want to leave. They were pissed that they were doing this exorcism or exorcisms. There was 30 of them that took place over the course of, I think it was like 6 weeks. Absolutely insane, and he was just violently thrashing. Witnesses described the room as oppressive. The air was thick with a sense of dread. It was as if the walls themselves were alive. Roland's voice would change, becoming deep and guttural. He would mock the priests, calling them by name and recounting their personal sins with chilling accuracy. On multiple occasions, objects in the room seemed to move on their own. Crucifixes flew from the walls, and heavy furniture shifted as if pushed by invisible hands. Poltergeist type of activity. Like, let's say, like that dresser behind me just shifted. That's how bad this was, or like got thrown, a chair gets thrown or something. This was an intense exorcism. One night, as Father Baudin held up a Bible, Roland screamed, "It burns, put it away," and lunged at the priest with inhuman strength. So this demon was giving him a bunch of strength that a 14-year-old shouldn't normally have, and I guess tried to attack the priest. But the most unsettling manifestations were marks on Roland's body. They would say words, like as if the demon was trying to talk through Roland, spelling out words like hell and leave. One night, the name Legion appeared on his chest, a chilling reference to the demons mentioned in the Gospel of Mark. So a legion of demons, more than one. Father Walter Halloran, who assisted in the exorcisms, later described Roland's strength as superhuman. Meant to restrain the boy during his fits, he was just a child, but it felt like holding down a grown man with a grudge. Despite the physical and emotional toll, the priest pressed on, believing they were in a fight for Roland's soul. On several nights, Roland would fall into a trance-like state and recite passages from the Bible in Latin. So whatever was taking over him was making him talk in a language he's never even learned before. Somehow he's just reciting Bible verses in this language, which would be near impossible because he's never even spoke this language before. Other times he would scream blasphemies and spit at the priests. The exorcisms were not only exhausting, but also very dangerous. They believed that perseverance and faith were the only weapons against the darkness. April 18th, 1949, Easter Monday, marked the climactic night of Roland's exorcism. So this, I'm thinking, is the day that they were actually able to exorcise these demons out of him. The priests knew they were meeting the end of their strength, but they also sensed the demon's hold was weakening. The ritual began like the others, with prayers and commands in Latin. Roland's reaction was immediate. He thrashed violently, his body contorting in ways that seemed impossible. His voice changed, becoming guttural and mocking. "You think you can make me leave?" he growled. "The boy is mine." As the priest continued, the atmosphere in the room became suffocating. Witnesses described a foul stench filling the air, and the temperature dropped so low that their breath was visible. Father Baudin called upon the Archangel Michael, the warrior angel known for defeating Satan in Christian lore. He prayed aloud, "Saint Michael, defend defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. Suddenly, Roland's body went rigid. His eyes rolled back into his head, and he let out a guttural scream that shook the entire room. In deep commanding voice, he cried out, "Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you to leave this boy now." The room was filled with a blinding light, and Roland let out one final ear-piercing scream before collapsing onto the bed. The priests then held their breath, waiting for the next outburst, but there was only silence. When Roland opened his eyes, he looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. "It's gone," he whispered. For the first time in months, Roland was calm. The priest declared the exorcism a success. In the days that followed, Roland showed no signs of possession. The welts and scratches on his body disappeared as if they weren't even there in the first place, and the disturbances in the house ceased. The family, overwhelmed with relief, thanked the priests and vowed to keep the details of the ordeal private. Father Bauderne, however, carried the weight of his experience for the rest of his life, so this is something he has not forgotten. Being that it was a huge exorcism, I don't think anybody could forget that. Like, if I witnessed an exorcism, I'd be like, okay, that was like the most traumatic paranormal experience of my entire life that I just witnessed. He never spoke publicly about the case, but those close to him said he was deeply affected by what he had witnessed. Father Halloran, who lived into his 80s, often recounted the events but admitted he couldn't explain them fully. "I saw things that defy logic," he once said, "and I pray I never see them again." So there was one part that I left out in the beginning that's really important about this whole story. His Aunt Harriet, that he was, I think, really close to, was a spiritualist and showed him how to use a Ouija board. So you guys are probably wondering what made this exorcism happen? Well, yes, it was a Ouija board, as I said in the beginning, but this is how it all started. It all started in January 1949 in Cottage City, Maryland. Roland Doe lived with his family. Roland was described as a quiet, intelligent boy, but he was also very isolated. His primary companions were adults, including his Aunt Harriet, who shared his interest in spiritualism. Aunt Harriet introduced Roland to the Ouija board, which she claimed could be used to communicate with the dead. Roland quickly became fascinated, spending hours asking questions and waiting for answers. And I've even heard some stories where he would play it by himself. Not long after Aunt Harriet's sudden death in early 1949, strange things began happening in Roland's home. It started with scratching sounds coming from the walls and floors, followed by objects moving on their own. Witnesses reported that furniture would slide across the room, dishes would fall from the shelves, and a vase even flew across the dining room, narrowly missing a family member. Roland himself became the epicenter for this activity. His bed would shake violently at night, and he began to hear whispers that no one else would hear. The family, terrified, turned to their Lutheran minister for help. I'm gonna give my take on this whole thing. There are some skeptics that have read this story and looked at it and been like, well, there could have been a psychological thing going on. There is a part in this story that was not mentioned here that I did not read, where he was levitating off the bed. There was also another point where he was taken to a hospital and he was in restraints. I'm pretty sure he broke through the restraints and they had to put new ones on him. So when they say he was superhuman, had inhuman strength, this demon that was inside of him, absolutely out of control, and was just straight up the most powerful thing that they've ever seen. And even one of the priests said that this defied all logic. There was no explaining this. There was really no debunking it. Things were flying everywhere. It even said like a vase flew across the room and nearly missed someone's head. Now, what do I think of this whole thing? I think that this actually happened. I think that this is real. I don't think that this was some publicity stunt. I think Ouija boards actually can possess people like that. And I really don't think that his aunt back then should have showed him Ouija boards and how to do them and how to use them and stuff like that. Because one, a kid should not be playing with a Ouija board, first of all. No matter what it says on the box, I know on the box it says ages 8 and up, and there's this joke that goes around, you have to be 21 and up to drink, but to summon demons you only have to be 8 years old. And might I add, this exorcism of Roland Doe inspired the movie The Exorcist. That movie was inspired by this massive exorcism, all stemming from a Ouija board. So yeah, basically right before the Exorcist movie came out, that's when things started going south with Ouija boards. There were possessions, people were having demonic activity, like it all stemmed before that. And they made that movie after all this stuff happened. So this stuff was big enough that they made a movie inspired by the events. But yeah, going back to the skeptics, I think stuff flying around the room, you levitating off the bed, violently thrashing and breaking restraints, that is not normal and that is completely unexplainable. Like, this isn't just some creak they heard in the room. This isn't just like some knocking sounds that they heard off into the distance that could be explained by something. He was defying gravity when he was levitating. I don't know if there's actual footage of this exorcism taking place, but I think this is very important to put out there because this just shows how deadly a Ouija board can be. And people always say it's just a board game. I actually read this thing on Google and it says, you know, keep telling yourself it's just a game. Keep telling yourself that, but it's really not. Because stuff like this can happen to you. It may not happen to everybody that tries it, but it can happen. And I don't know about you guys, but every time I've played a Ouija board with my friends, I always felt weird. Not possession type of weird, but like whenever you have your fingers on it and it's like moving and everything, you feel like a certain energy is there. It's very weird and it's so hard to explain. But anyways, that is the story of Roland Doe's exorcism. I hope you guys enjoyed that story, maybe took something away from it. And as always, don't forget to please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.